Over 8 million people in the UK live with an anxiety disorder at any given time. Roughly 20% of adults report feeling anxious most or all of the time, 1 in 5. Women are more likely to suffer from anxiety than men. Young people are significantly more likely to suffer from anxiety than older people. These headlines on what we might consider clinically recognizable forms of anxiety are pretty shocking. But the reality is that we are all living in the midst of what commentators describe as ambient anxiety. That persistent background noise of societal unease that can be hard to identify, but which never really goes away. Now, I doubt there is anyone here this morning that is unaffected by this persistent, nagging form of anxiety. Because let's face it, we live in a globalized and highly connected world in which we are continuously exposed to ambient stresses and distresses. War, injustice, polarization, current or impending disaster. The internet, social media, and our news networks expose us to a continuous diet of global issues and challenges that are not directly happening to us at any one time, but which create an often subconscious feeling of danger or risk. It isn't the sort of direct and immediate threat that triggers a fight or flight response, but something much more invidious, more subtle, and longer term. We worry. We worry about the climate crisis. We worry about our health and our family's health. We worry about Ukraine and Gaza and Greenland. We worry about Trump and Putin. We worry about the economy. We worry about whether we have enough money today and whether our money will last until we die. We worry about the state of public services, the NHS, public transport, potholes. We worry. We worry. Which is what makes Jesus' command from the Sermon on the Mount that we heard just now particularly hard. Don't worry. And it's not just a suggestion, but a commandment. In just 9 verses, Jesus asks twice in his usual, wonderfully rhetorical way, why on earth humanity worries so much. And 3 times in this passage, he simply employs the imperative. Don't worry. It can, I think, be hard for us to take. Don't worry? Really? Jesus, can you not understand what it's like for us down here on earth, surrounded by all these crazy people doing all these utterly crazy things? How do you expect us just to will ourselves out of worry? But of course, Jesus isn't just issuing us with a bold commandment without any sense of practicality to it. There's so much more that Jesus has to say in this passage and elsewhere in his teaching that can give us some strong clues about how we might successfully worry less. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will look after itself, Jesus tells us. Worry is futile, he's saying, utterly, utterly pointless. Instead, Jesus is suggesting, be alive to the present, to the here and the now. Focus on the things you can control today, rather than the things you can't control tomorrow. And that presentness is something that Jesus modeled extensively throughout his ministry. Now, yes, it's true that Jesus occasionally pointed towards Jerusalem and beyond, but mainly, I think, to equip the disciples for what was to come. And yes, occasionally he reached back into the past, particularly in invoking the prophets. But mostly, as we see particularly in his relationships with the disciples and his pastoral encounters with others, he displays a breathtaking presentness, an unyielding focus on those around him and their needs, an attention to the current task, and a perpetual celebration of the goodness of God in the here and now. And we can do well to apply that within our own lives, being fully present each and every day, not rooted either in the future or the past. Because, of course, if we think about it, there are so many more random, unknown variables in our lives tomorrow than there are today. The reality is that the brains that we carry around with us are, among many other things, highly evolved threat perception engines. Now, that's an important and very helpful function that has kept human beings and our evolutionary predecessors alive for literally millions of years. So yes, we are fabulously well equipped at imagining all sorts of potential threats, many of which, of course, will never actually happen. We might think here of the words of American economist Paul Samuelson, who famously lamented that economists had predicted 9 of the last 5 recessions. Rooting ourselves in the here and now can help us avoid spinning off into those doom loops about what the future might hold, and particularly of worrying about outcomes that will simply never occur. But in addition to staying present, we can help to wean ourselves away from worry by holding things loosely rather than gripping hold of them tightly. Remembering that we are stewards rather than proprietors of the resources that God has endowed upon us. This morning's passage from Matthew 6 is immediately preceded by Jesus reminding his disciples, the crowd, and us, not to store up treasure, to be generous, and to serve God and not mammon. And when we think of ourselves as stewards of all that God has blessed us with, we can learn to hold those things more loosely as a result. It's a term and a learning that I most remember Ruth Durnley using. Now, Ruth is a fellow LLM and is married to Mark, Sally's predecessor here as vicar at St. Mary's. Many of you will know them both. In addition to being an LLM, Ruth, until fairly recently, led a remarkable charity called Stop the Traffic, which employs big data in the fight against human trafficking. It's groundbreaking, highly successful, and fantastically impactful work. And it makes a real systemic difference on a global scale. But the journey to success, particularly financially, was long and incredibly bumpy. In its early years, the charity could frankly have run out of money many, many times. But Ruth was constant in her belief that she had to hold that charity loosely rather than tightly. Now, it wasn't that she didn't care if it succeeded or failed. Quite the opposite. But she recognized that if it didn't come off, it wouldn't be the result of any lack of effort or achievement by her or her team. She recognized that she couldn't control every outcome and that she had to accept and indeed embrace that lack of control. Because ultimately, our anxiety or otherwise is a function of our trust in God. In the words of Tim Keller, worry is looking out at the world and being afraid that God isn't going to get it right. You're filled with anxiety because you think life is up to you. You're trying to take the place of God, but you are unqualified for the job. And anyone who is in a job they are unqualified for feels really weird. Ultimately, we step away from anxiety by ignoring those worldly narratives of scarcity and risk and loss, and allowing ourselves to be drawn by God into a kingdom of abundance and hope and trust. Now, that's not easy. We are both societally conditioned and evolutionarily hardwired to focus on threat. Jesus knew that, I think. He knows that our human wiring makes it harder for us to trust God than the birds of the air or the flowers in the field. It's why his words are so rhetorically powerful for his disciples and for us today. But trust we must in God's providence for us today and tomorrow, and in the ultimate victory that has, of course, already been won for us through the cross. Because as Paul wrote to the Romans in the reading we heard earlier, our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. We can live joyfully and trustingly and fearlessly in the present, quite simply because God, through Christ, has the future well and truly sorted. Don't worry. Amen. A few notices this morning. Lent is but 10 days away. A little bit scary for us to all think that the year is moving on that quickly. A reminder that we're going to be using the diocese come and see materials through our services, so those will form the basis for our preaching. But there are also daily reflections that you can sign up to. Those are in the update if you receive that. If you don't receive that, come and talk to me later on, and we'll make sure we get you onto that weekly update. But you can sign up to daily email reflections. I can also see Mick at the back holding up a palm cross, which is not him just getting ahead of himself. That is just a reminder for you, if you have one sitting at home, either to bring them into church or to take them to the shop, and Sally will then use those to create the ash for Ash Wednesday. There is a parish walk this afternoon, which Tim is going to be leading. That's going to start at the clock tower, so important that you remember clock tower rather than here in church. And that's 2 p.m, and that's going to be a walk, a circular walk to Halton and back, about 5 miles. And it may be dry. Certainly it should be drier than it's been. And a reminder that Matthew Routledge and Michael Hunt's licensing service and installation, or then all the clever words that I can never remember, that is on Monday, February the 16th at St. Nicholas, Great Kimble. If you would like to be at that, and I know that many of you will know either Matthew or Michael or both, then I think do just let Sally know, because there are an awful lot of people who will want to be at that service, and a finite number of spaces. And then finally, a couple of notices from Jack, who is looking for volunteers. So the pancake party on Shrove Tuesday, that's February the 17th, so Tuesday week. Please let Jack know either if you can help on the day, or if you can help by making some pancakes. I think the pancakes get made in advance rather than trying to do them in the kitchen behind me. So please let Jack know if you can do that. Also, he is starting now to think about the Shine summer program for children in August, which was such a success last year. He's looking for volunteers now so he can work out how many children we can support through that program, and he really wants to get promoting that. So again, please let Jack know if you can help with that. Thank you so much.
So much noise, so many voices, pulling us forward, pulling us back. Breathe in this moment, stand where you are. Enough for today is here, not far. Open hands, loosen grip, trust the ground under every step.